back to Solutions Rising. I'm Rachel Branch, and it is very special once again to be welcoming Mr. William Schmick to Solutions Rising. Mr. Schmick has had an impressive career on Wall Street and now is an investment advisor, a financial advisor, a weekly columnist. He's just full of all kinds of information we need to know about our financial management of our life monies and work monies. And so I'm so happy that you're here. Welcome, Bill.
Well, thank you for having me back, Rachel.
Oh,
Really.
I hope we can continue to do this frequently.
I do too.
And we want to just start off to just once again give our viewing audience a little background, whatever you would like.
Okay. Well, I'm not Mr. Schmick, I'm Bill. Okay, that's number one. I live here in the Berkshires, and prior to that, I basically worked on Wall Street for many years, and I'm retired now, but I do write 2 columns a week for a number of newspapers and other media sources. I style myself right now as an independent, and we'll get into what's going on, I'm sure. I'm married, and we have a dog. And
I've seen your dog. You've got one. Your dog reminds me of one that I had years ago.
Okay.
Great dog.
Yes, yes. So, so that's me. Okay. So, what is your first question?
Well, the last time we talked the era of populism,
Yes.
we were entering in how the country arrived at this situation. However, everything has changed because of the Trump administration in what is occurring in the United States. So, and the effect worldwide, especially the ominous trade war and tariffs. So, I really want to hear you discuss your outlook and how you feel about what is happening right now, which affects us locally and nationally and worldwide.
Sure. Okay. Well, the subject of populism, which we talked about last year, I believe we are in the era of another populist cycle in this country. The last one was about 20 years, and that was in the 60s into the 80s, okay? Prior to that, there was another populist period that began in the 30s, and that ended somewhere in the mid-40s after World War II, okay? We could go back, there was another populist period before World War I, on and on. So populism in this country is something that it regularly happens over X number of years. 20, 25 years, it's roughly that long. So I would say we've entered this populist period sometime around 2008, somewhere around there, okay? And that happens in a democracy when the pendulum of democracy swings. Now, in this country, I believe that this pendulum swings over years to the right, and when it gets too far to the right, it begins to swing back through the center and goes to the left, and then too far to the left. And I believe the founding fathers knew this when they created the Constitution and the system of checks and balances. Now, if you wanted to say what the right means, it is sort of like dog eat dog, the survival of the fittest, capitalism, free markets, greed, all of that, okay? And on the left side, as it swings the other side, the ideas would be ultra-liberalism, socialism to an extreme communism, these kinds of ideas, equality, which is fine, things like that. Okay. Now, the natural state of man, I believe, is far to the right. Dog eat dog, so forth and so on.
Predators.
Okay. Predators, we are, okay. Back for
It'll be a long time to get that.
Right. And today, economics in the financial markets would be the hunt, the predators, okay, where you can't make enough money. There's just no end to it. It's an extreme, okay? That's the natural state of man, I believe. In our country, because of the founding fathers, they recognized that too. And so they decided that what they wanted to do is balance out those tendencies, okay? And on the other side, make sure that checks and balances champion things like fairness, equality, equity, justice. And that's the way our country has historically has been going on. We may not have seen it because we don't look at the forest for the trees at times, but all we're doing now is another period where the pendulum has swung too far to the left. The share of the economy, the government share of the economy, over many decades has increased and increased and increased, while the private sector has decreased. So to the point where the idea of a free market has been sort of evolving into a centrally run government economy in many respects. Okay? And what we're seeing is an era where that pendulum now is swinging from left to right. And I believe this will continue for a number of more years, sometimes into the 2030s, in which unfortunately, this pendulum is going to swing far, far right. So that's where I think we are. And so that everything that's happened since we were last here, I'm not surprised at any of it. I also think this is a generational thing. I'm a baby boomer. You're a little older than I am.
I'm a World War II baby.
World War II, okay. So I think this is a generational issue as well. In this sense, baby boomers like myself created the economy and the political system that we have today. I believe that. And we've made a lot of mistakes on the way. And now we have a new generation, the Gen X, the millennials, those below the millennials, who are coming into their own at this point. And the gray hairs or no hairs like me and you, okay, have to start to relinquish the power we had and the ideas that we had and the institutions that we had that served us very well, but evidently are not serving the younger generations.
And of course, I have to say, served a lot of men, patriarchy, and women that support them. They did not serve generally women. And of course, I believe there's a worldwide assault on women, and I have real problems with women that support patriarchy. Of course, we're generalizing here, and I look at, I look at what Republicans were when I was growing up and what Democrats were. I believe the two-party system is the problem now, and I think George Washington was concerned about that. I also believe in intergenerational, what we've labeled all these different generations, Gen X and whatever, but we have to intergenerationally work with young people so they don't have to reinvent the wheel, and we could help correct this very right forward. And of course, then we'll get back into your your cyclical financial concerns, and I have questions on, but this is very different. You think it might right itself if the pendulum will swing, but I have a question, is there time for it to right itself if we have the threat of nuclear war, the worldwide damage that is being done, and I want to talk about the tariffs and the trade war, and nuclear war, and just so much that how do you grab that pendulum and pull it back so we can save our world, frankly, and environmentally what is happening. So this is a new arena, I think, that I'm questioning about the cyclical financial periods. And I agree with all that you're saying.
Well, it's never not new. Okay,
Okay.
the challenges that when I had when I was of age. Okay, the Vietnam War, the drafts, the stifling feeling I had that if I wasn't part of the community and my hair wasn't short and I didn't toe the line and I didn't wait in line for my job and whatever and didn't work all the things that my father and mother grew up teaching me were the things I rebelled against. What about me, the individual, as opposed to the community? Okay. I don't care what the community is. I don't want to live in a Levitt town. Okay.
Oh.
I don't even want to get married. Why should I get married? Why should I take care of your child? Me generation.
Yep.
Okay. So all of that was new to me. Now we're facing a whole new set of variables that we haven't faced before. Now, nuclear war is one that we do face, and that was around in the 1950s and 60s and 70s. But you're right, there's a lot of things that are changing, and as
climate catastrophe is one of those too.
climate change is one of the others, okay? A very real situation.
those.
Yes.
Hugely real.
Yes. So we will face that, and our generation, you said we have to work with intergenerational.
Intergenerationally. You don't want to reinvent the wheel.
I would use the word advise. I would use the word gently nudge.
Oh, yeah.
Why? Because I didn't want my parents working with me. Okay?
Yeah.
So, no. If my father or mother had sat down and gently nudged me and said, gee, Bill, if you do all these drugs, okay, you might end up, with a brain full of holes. But it's up to you, okay? Now, I may not and probably wouldn't listen to them, but I think our role in the coming decade is to gently nudge, to understand that the variables that we now that we now face today are different from what we did, but we have made mistakes, many of them, and as long as we're willing to listen to the generations, no matter what their issues are or their attitudes they are, and they will be not the same attitudes that we agree with, but my idea is to hold that in and try not to be the parent, but sort of the gray bearded, what was the name of that wizard in Tolkien's novels? The gray haired,
I know
you know who I'm talking
I don't
about.
know.
That's the kind of role I think that we can play in the coming, what I think is going to be terrible 5 to 8 more years of conflict and stress.
Well, the other avenue that I come because of this incredible show, I can't believe I still am doing Solutions Rising. One of the things that I do intergenerationally is find young people, listen to them, pull them right on this program, and let them. And I look at community television as a way to empower young people. So when I'm talking about what can you do, of course you're listening, but you're also giving them a voice. And also,
Yes.
I think for young people to be able to come on a community television program, and it's their program, that's a way to empower. And then it goes all out. They can send it any place they want.
That's right.
So that's what I mean, intergenerationally,
That's great.
supporting young people.
Right.
And,
Right. So,
gently nudging them by saying,
gently
here it is,
nudging.
your show.
Right.
Yes.
So in the last 90 days, 100 days, okay, the first 900 days of Trump's administration, the country has been shocked by the number of changes that are going on. some good, some bad. And I don't believe that we should be focusing on any president. Donald Trump is neither this generation's Hitler, nor is he this generation's Delano Roosevelt. He is simply a person who is enunciating through his own filter the generations that have been left out of our country for the last 40 years. Left out meaning that our political and our economic system has not been able to share the benefits with, well, if you look at the election results, 50 or 51, 52% of the country. It's even more than that, okay? When we look at we all know now the top 1% or the top 10%. So for example, and we will look at tariffs, I'll bring this in as an example today, that all the newspapers and me and everybody believe that the tariffs are going to be not only inflationary, okay, but they are going to impact and devastate the lower incomes people in this country.
Already have.
Already are. Okay.
We look at the AIDS program
Right.
overseas.
Right.
A couple of million people are going to die.
Yes.
Right now.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so here's a shock. Okay. I step back and I say, wait a minute. Today, the top 10% of American consumers, of the American people, consume 50% of all products. 50%. So think about this. When you place a tariff on a car, on a hat, on food, on whatever, who does it impact the most? Is it the person that's $40,000, $20,000, $35,000? Or is it one of the 10% that account for 50% of all spending in this country? The tariff and the cost of the tariffs are going to them. They are paying the lion's share of any tariff that's put on the people of the United States, simply because they're consuming 50% of all the products. We don't think about that in this way. Okay, now, remember I said this is a populist era. This group of people who don't feel that they are shared in the economic and political system, what do they want? They want to redistribute the wealth from the wealthy, from the 1%, the 10%, to them, the 80%. Now, in that respect, if you look at it from a macroeconomic point of view, the tariffs are redistributing wealth simply because 10% of the population consumes 50% of all products. So who's going to get hit worse when they buy the Mercedes-Benz? The guy that can't afford it, or the woman that can't afford it, or the person that has 3 in their garage? It goes to them. So, yes.
Don't you believe a lot of this is actually a way to cut taxes for the very wealthy?
Okay, cut taxes for the very wealthy. It's interesting that you say that. The coming the great big beautiful bill.
Yep.
Okay, example. Now, we know that the first time around that the highest income earners, when in 2018 there was the tax cut, they benefited more than everyone else. Corporations and higher net worth individuals, they got the lion's share of the tax cut. This time around, we're not getting a tax cut. We're avoiding a tax increase.
I have to
Are you
mull
following
that
me?
over. I am following.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, here's an interesting thing to think about. What are the only things, aside from that, tax-wise, that are happening in this great, big, beautiful bill? What are the only tax breaks? Where are the tax breaks going? Tips? Who makes tips?
The lowest income.
It's certainly not the top 20%,
No.
right? Okay? That's what's in the bill. Social Security recipients.
Which I'm one.
And I am, and so am I. Okay?
Which we worked and earned.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's in the bill. And the only other, I think, tax discount is something else that impacts lower income people. Okay, so here's what that tax bill is doing. It's not a tax decrease. It just keeps the taxes from going back to where they were, higher. And the only benefits, the only people that are benefiting this time around from the taxes are who? The 80%. Okay, the people that are suffering, that want wealth redistributed. Okay? There has even been a suggestion, which has been shot down for the moment, that we should tax millionaires. Republicans have suggested that, not Democrats, Republicans. Okay? The only other potential tax increases, there may be a tax savings on the state, which is the cap on tax deductibility of your house, your mortgage, right? Back in 2018, you could deduct all mortgages, taxes, and then that was capped at 10%. There's a group of senators and congressmen that want that increased. Okay, but they wanted it to double or go back to where it was. And the Republicans aren't even doing that. Okay, there may be an increase just to get the bill passed, but it's not going to be much. So in this time around, in this tax bill, even though it still is status quo in the sense that no real breakthroughs in tax deductions for anyone except those have-nots like us. Okay, they'd have Social Security, waiters and waitresses and things like that. So what I'm pointing out here is that even though we're screaming about the impact that that tax bill will have if Medicaid is cut,
Oh, wow.
right?
Yeah.
That's terrible. The fact that these other things are going on, we ignore them completely. Now, is Medicaid really going to be cut?
I don't know, but the fear of it is
Yes,
driving
exactly.
really, really
Yes.
horrific circumstances.
One of the main reasons I'm doubtful is that who benefits most from Medicaid? The same people that voted, the same populist that voted for Donald Trump. Okay? Whether that passes or not, I'm questioning it. Or maybe they do cut Medicaid on the federal level, but give funds to the state to make up for those shortfalls. And in other words, make more of the payments in Medicaid, not a federal thing, but a state thing. But in order to accomplish that, they pull money into the states. And what states would get most? The red states. Do you see what I mean? So what I'm saying is that if you step back and you look at what's actually occurring, not all of it is horrible. Okay, but you have to do the research. You have to be into what they're actually doing. One of the things that I find very interesting, Scott Bessent, who is the new U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, I know him. He was a client many years ago when he worked at Soros. He's a very good man. He's a very smart man. He has said something many times now that my ears pricked up, because he said, Wall Street has had a great time for the last 30 some years. It's time for Main Street.
Oh,
What is he really saying? He's recognizing just what we're talking about, that this is a populist era, and the have-nots are demanding a redistribution of wealth. And what he recognizes that. And what he believes he and Trump and his room full of maniacs are really trying to do in their own way is to answer that plea from over 50% of the American people to swing the pendulum back to a point where we also participate in the American system.
and we've never had, the income inequality is just going farther and farther apart.
And they know
Greed is
that.
predominating. But I remember, I look at the market now and say it's a casino, it's a crapshoot.
It is.
But I remember growing up, the market was supposed to be a place where money was invested so businesses could have capital to create their business and to expand and provide jobs.
Exactly.
And the people, the populace, the people that you're talking about now, don't have any skin in the game today.
Exactly. So there's solutions. Okay, there are solutions, and they may be coming. Here's something that you probably ignored, and I have ignored because I thought it was just Trump campaigning again. But he said, and has said many times, that what was he going to do with the tariff money? His hope was that he would remove income tax.
Mm-hmm.
He said it. He said it 24 times now.
The question is what can you believe?
And we say
The perception
yes,
is doing damage, and what can we believe of what he says?
and it's impossible, say the economist. You'll never make enough. You'll never raise enough money on tariffs to forgive income taxes. Which, of course, if he did, benefited who the most? The have-nots. Okay.
That's the perception that I think wants to come out. But when I look at the diplomatic damage that's being done internationally, even people who can't take the time to understand the trade between China and the United States, that's a huge educational need. But if years have been spent, and I'm generalizing, dumbing down Americans, how are those who are working 2 or 3 jobs supposed to have the time to be part of their community, to participate, to have the time to be educated so they understand what's going on in Washington? Donald Trump, this is an outcome, I look at it as an outcome of trickle-down economics starting with Reagan.
Which didn't work. It doesn't work.
Of course
didn't
not.
work.
Of course not.
But let's stay on that subject, international, for a moment.
Yeah. And if we get close to the end, I'm going to ask you, let's do a part 2 of this program because in the next week or two, because you're just a fountain of information.
Well, let's
so clear.
Thank you. Let's look at the international system, okay, for a minute. Mm-hmm. Step back. Let's go back in history, where I learned so much by reading and looking at history. After World War II, we were the victors, but we had a serious enemy, communism, Russia, that was splitting the world. Okay. Now, how are we going to convince the rest of the world to come our way? Democracy and not communism. Because Russia was the Soviet Union. It had their own way, guns and whatever, and they were picking off one nation after another. Well, what we realized is that World War II devastated so many countries in the world, absolutely devastated.
It's awful.
Okay? That we actually could use that to our advantage. What do you mean? Well, what I mean is that we would offer them trade. After all, we were the only country in the world that wasn't damaged. We had the greatest might, the biggest opportunity for trade. So what we begin to do is go from country to country and say, hey, we want you to have fair democratic elections. And I also see that your people are hungry and you could do with a lot of trades. What we'll do is we're going to let you trade. You could put tariffs on our goods, okay? And your products, bring them in the country for free, no problem, okay? The only thing we want you to do is hold democratic elections. And we also want you to join with the United States in some military and strategic alliances. So after World War II, that formula successfully brought country after country after country into democracy and the United States sphere. It was great. I mean, after all, we didn't have to worry about it because we were the richest country in the world. And if Japan, in order to rebuild, needed to send radios to us, we weren't going to put tariffs on them. And they could put all the tariffs they want on Ford or GM because, it's Japan. How many cars are they really going to build, right? But we needed an ally where we had an enemy. So that's the development of the way and why tariffs became so lopsided in our country. We have used continuously for years and decades that carrot trade, okay, from an uneven point of view, okay, in order to keep the political situation in our favor. We did it in the oil producing countries through the 70s throughout. So, but times have changed. And now we look at that system that we created in which China has tons and tons of tariffs on our goods. And we, the nice guys, quote unquote, have no tariffs on theirs. Okay, we created that system and we did it on purpose. Rather than bomb a country into democracy like the Soviet Union was doing, we traded them into democracy and it worked until now.
Well, I also have to question, absolutely, I understand and agree with what you're saying, but also we, the United States, became internally involved in other countries. And,
yeah, we just didn't bomb them. we did.
Vietnam.
Yeah, and we
Afghanistan,
did.
Libya.
Yes. I'm not saying that we are perfect, okay?
No.
We
but
pretended to be.
We have some truth telling.
Yes.
Historically.
True.
To talk about.
And we pretended to some extent that, democracy was the way to go. But we bought it. We bought it through our tariff strategies, okay? We bought democracy. So, but times change, and now times have changed, and we're no longer that country. We're no longer there. Okay.
So right now we're gonna ask you for a final thought, and then I am going to ask that we got about 3 minutes, and I do want to bring up this book, Fourth Turning, and talk about it again, and I want to read one passage from which I think ought to be a little comforting.
Okay.
So would you like a final thought?
Yes. Sticking with The Fourth Turning, it's a book that I've read. The Fourth Turning and The Fourth Turning is here. And it's provided me a framework and an understanding of what we're going through now, this populism era, okay? It's going to get worse before it gets better, unfortunately, okay? We've got many more years, 5, 10 years of this issue. Whether and who brings us out of this, is it Donald Trump or is it someone else that we don't even know yet?
I think it might be the people coming up.
Whomever it is, yes.
I think what we're doing right here today is part of the solution.
I do too.
I really do.
I do too. So hang in there.
Yeah.
Okay. And just understand that we're in a period, but we'll come out on the other side better than ever, or at least that's what I believe.
So. Yes, really. But this book, which I am going to read, and I didn't have time to read it before this program, I went right to the epilogue, and I'm going to read one paragraph from it. But one of my favorite authors, William Faulkner, said, "The past isn't dead. It's not even the past." On the flat earthen floors of their rounded hogans, Navajo shamans or chanters sift colored sand in intricate patterns across a giant circular area, perhaps 10 feet across. As the image materializes, it gradually reveals 4 quadrants. Each quadrant represents a season of life and a season of time, each embellished by its own associated bird or plant or spirit deity, called Yi, if I'm pronouncing that right. The shamans complete the painting by encompassing it with a circle. But as they do so, they always leave a gap in the 4th quadrant. This signifies the moment of death and rebirth, what the ancient Greeks called ekpirosis, if I'm saying that correctly. According to Navajo lore, this moment can be completed and the circle closed only by the gods, never by mortal man. So we'll leave that to be continued.
Okay.
And if each one of us pick up one problem and solve it, imagine the incredible view we will all have of Solutions Rising. Please be part of the solution. And thank you, Bill Schmick. And
You're
I'm
welcome.
looking to our next program together.
Okay, great. Thank you.